Then Goldman just confronted Kash Patel in a stunning oversight clash, exposing new questions about the FBI and Jeffrey Epstein files. This explosive exchange could change everything. Stay tuned.
Gentleman's recognized.
So I've got 4 documents I'd like to introduce into the record. The first one is Jeffrey Epstein's 6th story played out for years in plain sight. And Acosta is quoted in here saying, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone." The second document is entitled, "What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About His CIA Connections." The third document is from Fox Digital. It's titled, "Epstein's Private Calendar Reveals Planned Meetings with Obama Admin Official CIA Chief." And the last document is Wall Street Journal article that highlights Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the former Prime Minister of Israel and head of military intelligence for Israel. It may have held that title when he met Epstein, and then, yes.
Without objection, the gentleman will hold for a second. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one UC request. This is Judge Engelmeyer's decision from August in U.S. versus Epstein, stating the government's 100,000 pages of Epstein files dwarfs the 70-odd pages of Epstein grand jury materials.
Without objection, the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, "You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself?" You replied, according to the transcript, "There is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else." You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors, such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information. And we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you're willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed that it was important to release the documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files?
I don't know what day that was, so no.
Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names who weren't redacted because they were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that. Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you?
Well, I can speak for the FBI, and that's presuming there's a CIA case file. And I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI, that was provided to us.
Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein?
If there is such a file, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads.
Have you made any progress on the pipe bomb investigation January 6th? And have you made any progress on the motive of the Las Vegas shooter?
As to the first, it's an ongoing investigation, and we have made progress. As to the second, sir, I'll have to get back to you.
All right, thank you. I yield back.
In a heated moment that's now spiraling across the internet, Congressman Dan Goldman has sparked a political firestorm after pressing former Trump advisor Kash Patel and raising. The tension erupted during a recent oversight session, where Goldman confronted Patel over what he described as selective narratives, secrecy, and a suspicious pattern of missing information tied to the Epstein case, a case the public has demanded transparency on for years. Viewers watching the exchange felt the stakes instantly. This wasn't just another routine hearing. This was a battle over truth, power, and the possibility of deeper institutional failings. Goldman began by reminding the panel that the Epstein case has left the American public with more questions than answers. Why did Epstein, one of the most high-profile detainees in recent memory, die in a facility under federal supervision? Why were so many documents sealed? Why do the names of powerful individuals remain redacted years later? Goldman argued that the FBI has had more than enough time to provide clarity, yet key information remains buried. Kash Patel, who has positioned himself as a critic of the FBI, claimed he had seen documents proving bias and cover-ups. But when Goldman pressed him for specifics, things took a sharp turn. What happened next stunned the room. Goldman demanded Patel clarify whether he actually reviewed the Epstein files firsthand, or if he was merely repeating information passed to him through political channels. Goldman asked Patel to confirm whether his claims were based on verified investigative records or on assumptions. Patel began hedging, saying he could not speak openly because certain materials were still classified or restricted. Goldman countered that Patel's refusal to present evidence while publicly claiming corruption was irresponsible and intentionally misleading. If you're making accusations that suggest criminal conduct inside the FBI, Goldman said firmly, you better have the receipts. The atmosphere shifted. The room went silent. Viewers leaned forward, and Patel appeared visibly uncomfortable. Goldman continued pressing, asking Patel whether he had received his information directly from the FBI or from partisan operatives tied to Donald Trump's inner circle. Goldman warned that promoting half-truths about federal investigations, especially one involving sex trafficking victims, harms public trust and distracts from the real issue, uncovering the truth and seeking justice for the survivors. Goldman then pivoted to the heart of the hearing. Why hasn't the FBI released all remaining Epstein files? He pointed out that the families of victims have waited nearly a decade for answers. He stated that withholding the names of influential individuals, people who may have participated or enabled Epstein, only fuels speculation and conspiracy theories. Goldman didn't stop there. He accused Patel of using selective outrage and political spin to weaponize the case for personal and partisan gain. Patel fired back, insisting that the FBI intentionally shields powerful people and that transparency has been resisted from the start. Goldman's rebuttal was sharp. He emphasized that the goal should not be political revenge or headline-grabbing accusations, but the truth. If we care about accountability, Goldman said, we pursue facts, not narratives. He argued that speculating without evidence harms not only the investigation, but also the victims whose stories are often overshadowed by the sensationalism around Epstein. One of the most intense moments came when Goldman asked Patel directly, "Are you claiming the FBI destroyed evidence? Yes or no?" Instead of answering, Patel accused the FBI of corruption in other unrelated cases, attempting to derail the questioning. Goldman didn't let him off. He reminded Patel that accusations without proof are reckless, and that spreading distrust without evidence is not whistleblowing, it's misinformation. Goldman then shifted attention to the survivors, stating that they deserve closure, not political spectacle. "We are not here to protect institutions," he said. "We are here to protect the truth." His voice carried a message that resonated with millions who have followed the Epstein story. Justice has been delayed long enough. As the hearing wrapped, one thing was clear: then Goldman had drawn a sharp line. He demanded transparency from the FBI and accountability from Kash Patel, but even more importantly, he pushed the Epstein case back onto the national stage. The exchange left viewers wondering, what is still being hidden? Who is being protected? And why, after years of investigations, haven't the full files been released? Whether the hearing results in new disclosures remains to be seen. But Goldman's confrontation underscored a truth many Americans already believe. The Epstein case isn't just about one man. It's about power, secrecy, and a system that seems to protect the wealthy and well-connected. The pressure for answers isn't fading, and after this explosive exchange, it's louder than ever.